staff in here today for support, and we're ready to take your questions. I'm also going to give you a code word at some point during this presentation, and if you've been with these broadcasts in the past, you know that if you collect 3 of these code words, 3 different code words, and email those to marketing@flintandwalling.com, you'll get credit for the session, and I believe that if you get at least 3 sessions in, they're going to reward you with something. They still have not told me what that's going to be, but it will be worth your while to go ahead and email those code words in. So,
you might want to cycle back. You didn't have audio at the very beginning there.
How far back?
I go right back to the beginning.
Like, hey, welcome everyone?
Yep, do you're welcome all over again. That was our fault.
Okay, all right. Hey, let's try this again. Take 2. Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to another edition of Flint and Walling's Sipping Ground Coffee morning live stream broadcast. My name is Dan Painter, and I will be hosting today's broadcast. Just a couple things though before we do get started with the broadcast today. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you like these videos that we're putting together. Hit that like and subscribe button. There's also a little bell on your YouTube screen. If you click on that bell, what that'll do is that'll give you notifications every time we're going to do one of these live broadcasts. Also, please follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you haven't done this yet, go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. That's going to keep you up to date on things that are going on and happening here at Flint and Walling. Just another couple things before we start. If you have any questions as we go through today, please don't be bashful or embarrassed to ask them. That's what we're here for, and I've got additional staff in here today for support, and so we should have the answers to any question you may have, again, as we go through today's presentation. And then the last thing before we get started has to do with what we call code words, okay? So I'm going to give you a code word at some point during this presentation. Write that thing down. When you collect 3 different code words and you email those in to Flint and Walling, and that email address is pretty easy, it's marketing@flintandwalling.com. Email those 3 code words in, and you're going to get a reward of some type. They still haven't told me what that's going to be, but I'm pretty sure it'll be worth your while. So with that, today's topic is the Commander 2 and why this drive has become very popular. Am I still coming through on sound all right?
Cut out for some reason. Just now when you were transitioning to talking about this.
Let me see. Okay, we should be good now.
Let me check.
How far back do I need to go?
Just a couple minutes.
Just
Back
a couple,
on.
couple minutes. All right, back on. Okay, so let's see if we can, hey, like a Little League baseball team, I'm telling you, the closer we get to tournament time, the better we're going to get. So as we continue to run these broadcasts, we'll smooth some of these things out. Going back to the Commander 2 and 3, these are the latest additions. These were introduced in 24 at the Jubilee, South Atlantic Jubilee, and also the National Groundwater Association, that convention out in Las Vegas. There are, as I mentioned, there are geographic markets right now where this drive's literally flying off the shelf. I have an opinion as to why that is. Number one, affordability. That's a key right here, is affordability. And so that's one reason why this drives became very, very popular. I'm going to set this Commander 2 down for a second. The other reason is that simplicity. You're going to find that this drive's probably as simple as a drive can get. And again, we're going to go through this to kind of give you a little better. The other thing that I think that makes these drives popular is the ability to upgrade existing water systems. All right, so those are 3 reasons I think that these drives are really taking off. So what we're going to attempt to do today is to introduce you to these drives. I'm going to, if we want to talk about what's new, here's what's new. I also want to go through the installation. It's a very simple installation. And then we're going to move into some setup and programming. The Commander 2, all right, the Commander 2 is going to be, this is an easy thing to remember, Commander 2 is a drive that is designed to operate 2-wire motors, all right, 2-wire motors, and that can be either a 115 volt or a 230 volt motor. They all need to be single phase, but it'll operate 2-wire motors. The 3-wire Commander 3 drive, now that's going to operate, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I mentioned horsepower on that Commander 2. That Commander 2 will operate everything from a half to a 1.5 horse 2-wire motor. Whereas the Commander 3 will operate everything from a half to a 2 horsepower submersible motor, and that can be either single phase or 3-phase. And the nice thing about these Commander 2 and 3 drives is they're going to virtually run anybody's motor. So that's also a plus side there. If we look at the front of the drive, there's a 3-light interface up here, right? So on the front of the drive, there's this 3-light interface. You've got a power button up there, a status button, and then a trip. Not buttons, but lights, indicator lights. Power, status, and trip. That power light, when that's on, it'll show a solid green. That's indicating that the controller is powered up. And then the status light, depending on whether it's solid or green, and again, the status light, depending on whether it's solid or green, is going to indicate just that, the status of the drive itself. And then that trip light, again, whether it's solid or blinking, that's going to indicate some kind of an issue with the system or the drive itself. All right, so the power is an indication that you got power to the drive. The status is going to let us know whether this is in a idle mode or whether it's up and running, a pump. And then the trip modes are going to tell us what's happening, what's going on there. Okay. This is also a NEMA 3 enclosure, so this enclosure is going to be good for either indoor or outdoor use. So that enclosure is going to take virtually any type of precipitation that may come from the sky, so it can be used very effectively outdoors. If you can see, I don't know, maybe I can turn this a little bit, but it also has a 4-post mounting bracket on the external. There are external mounting brackets on this. I don't know if I can tip this up a little bit. There's 2 down there at the bottom. Actually, you can see where the power comes in. The protection screen across the cooling fan down there. But those are the 2 posts at the bottom, and there's 2 just like it up at the top. There you go. And so those make it very easy to mount. And a lot of contractors actually like, I'm going to turn this a little bit so you can see it. It actually has a hinge door, all right? A hinge door versus a door that you slide off and have to sit down somewhere, okay? So again, it's just, there's a lot of contractors out there that have shown, the fact that they prefer a door that hinges open just like this, all right? Just like this. Okay, wiring this drive is really no different than a control box. If you're in markets where 3-wire motors are sold all the time, you know how to wire a control box. So when we look at this drive, I'm going to pull a slide up here. Do I have that zoom camera down here? I'm going to turn this so I can see it. I'm going to try to bring this into play. All right, so wiring this drive, I mentioned, there's the openings down here at the bottom to bring your power in, but there's a terminal block over here, and that's where your power is going to come into this drive, all right? It's got an L1, an L2, and a ground. So very, very well marked, easy to access terminal block to bring the power into the drive. Just on the other side over here is another terminal block, and this will be your power out to your pump, all right? This is a Commander 3 drive, and so the terminal block's going to have, down here we're going to have 4 terminals, right? So you're going to have your black, your yellow, your red, and your green ground over here. On the Commander 2 models, that terminal block will only have 3 terminals on it because all you have on the Commander 2 is 2 blacks and a green wire, right? So, I mean, as far as wiring this drive up, that really is not any different than wiring up a control box. I'm going to move to a slide now, Renee, and see if this, okay, so inside this control box then, when we're referencing those lights on the outside, those indicator lights on the outside, this label that you see up on your screen, this label will be put on the inside cover of the panel, the control panel. And what that label is going to do is it's going to tell us what the lights are indicating. All right. So in other words, if you've got a blinking red light, there's a single blink, two blinks. The single blink is an under load, two blinks is under voltage, three blinks is a locked rotor. If it's blinking four, and these are sequential, right? Sequential blinks. Four blinks. Trying to read that from this is that's an incorrectly wired drive, so on and so forth. You have those, and then in addition to the troubleshooting with the red light blinks, you've also got the other lights over there, the power light and the status light in addition to the... This label is going to tell you everything you really need to know about those lights up front. When you understand that, then you understand what the drive's telling us there. Anything I leave out on that? Ben, you think of anything there?
No, that QR code that's on that.
Oh,
label.
yes, a good point. There's a QR code up there on the top right, as you can see. You scan that with your phone, and that's going to take you right to the instruction manual for that particular drive. So you can actually have that instruction manual on your phone in just a matter of seconds by just scanning that QR code there. So, you know, when we talk about what's new, I've showed you some of the features as we've gotten into this thing as far as this, what this new drive has. Now, there are a couple other points here I want to wiring here, okay? Let's see if I'm pulling up my next slide. All right, well, that's basically, all right, what that slide's basically showing us is that the terminal block for your power, the L1 and L2 on the green ground, that's over on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, the terminal blocks I had already mentioned that for a two-wire drive, you're only going to have 3 terminals because you only have the 3 wires to hook up, whereas with a 3-wire drive, you're going to have the 4 terminal blocks. All right, so the only difference between those two is the 2-wire motor and a 3-wire motor. Now, when we go inside and look at this, the panel itself, all right, the panel itself, I'm going to turn this around just a little bit. All right, I'm going to blow this up so you can see it. There are slight differences between, did you call this a laminate? We had a name for this the other day. I forget what inlay. All right, inlay, that's right. But there's a slight difference between this inlay for a Commander 3 and the inlay for a Commander 2. We're going to point those out here very shortly. But over here is there's 3 banks of dip switches, all right? 3 banks. The one at the top, SW1, SW2, and SW3, those 3 banks. Think of it this way. The SW1, that top bank, that has to do with what kind of a pump are you going to operate and what's the horsepower, right? That's all that first bank's going to do. That second bank's going to say, how are you going to make that thing come on, all right? We have some choices there, and I'm going to get to that here shortly. But the second one is basically, how do you want that motor to start? And then the third bank down there at the bottom is kind of a bit of a catch-all, but there are some things down there that we are going to want to be aware of. So in addition to the bank on the left-hand side of the drive, you've actually got 2 dials over here on the right-hand side of the drive. The one on the bottom is to set a pressure set point for a transducer, and again, we're going to clarify all this in just a second. And the one at the top is for underload sensitivity, all right? So those are 2 dials that are adjustable inside that drive. I'm going to move on to that next slide because I believe, let's see what I've got coming up here. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we're going to move on ahead. Okay, let's look at this first bank here. Now, in that first bank, I had mentioned that up there is going to indicate what type of a pump and what horsepower of a pump is this drive going to operate. We've got to let the drive know what kind of a pump it's going to operate. And I had mentioned that there are some slight differences between the Commander 2 and the Commander 3. So if you look at the top bank up there, all right, at the top bank up there, you have a choice. In position number 6, under the Commander 3, you have a choice right there. You can either set this up to run a submersible pump motor, or you can set it up to run a centrifugal pump motor. If you look at the top of that bank, those switches, in order to be on, have to be in the right-hand position. Now that's really true for those horsepowers that you see listed above. When you get to point 6, or position 6, you got a choice to make there, right? So if you want this to be a submersible pump, you need that 6 to be in the left-hand position, where it's at now. If it's a centrifugal motor, you're going to switch that over to the right-hand position. If it's a centrifugal motor, I can't see what I've got down below there. Basically what we're talking about is an above-ground motor. This drive will run above-ground motors, even the permanent split capacitor. If you select submersible pump, which more than likely is the case most of the time, then down below that, position number 7, you can see now we're going to determine, is this just simply a 3-wire or is it a 3-phase? All right. When you look at the Commander 2, all right, move over to the right-hand side, look at the Commander 2. There are some slight differences here, right? There are some slight differences. If you look at the differences, you still have the horsepowers at the top. You've got your horsepowers at the top. Again, it'll only go to 1.5 horse. Position 6 is going to be used for either what we call a 2-wire switch or an above-ground centrifugal motor, particularly one that would have a permanent split capacitor. These are just, all we're doing with these dip switches is basically letting the drive know what it is that we're installing, okay? That's basically what we're doing. And so, you know, with that 2-wire, you come down to position number 8. There's your choice between a 230 volt or 115 volt. But the 2 wires are always going to be run on single phase applications. All right, so you've got your voltage selections there. So very easy to set up what kind of a pump you're putting in. All right, if this is going to be, I'm going to go back here just one slide. If this is going to be a centrifugal motor, all right, with centrifugal motors, when you look at the top bank up there again, let's see if I got a bigger slide of that. Whoops, I don't. When you look at that top bank up there with centrifugal motors, what we're going to do in lieu of setting a horsepower, we'll set a horsepower with submersible motors, but with centrifugal motors, we're going to be setting that up based on what we call max amps, all right, max amps. And if you look, and this chart, by the way, is in the instruction manual, but if you look at that chart, you've got max amps listed over on the left-hand side, and then across the top are your dip switches, all right, your dip switches. So you come down to max amps. I think the other day we went all the way down to, I think it was like 6.2 max amps. If you look down there, it's probably about 3/4 the way down. But if you come across, it says that first dip switch needs to be in the off position, and the next one's in the on position. You can go across there. I'm having a difficult time reading it from the distance. Sorry about that. But anyway, it's going to tell you which position those dip switches should be in. Again, when you look at the chart and you set it based on the chart, guess what? You don't have to cross your fingers hoping that you set the drive up properly. You go back up there to that, 4.1 amps up in that area. Now you're probably getting down into like a 1 horsepower centrifugal motor. But with a centrifugal motor, we're going to set this drive up based on max amps, not horsepower. And that's the case for either both the Commander 3 or the Commander 2. So again, that top bank up there, it's very, very simple to understand as you look at it. It's very well labeled, and all you're doing is basically letting the drive know what type of pump motor that it's going to be operating. If we move down to the second bank, and I mentioned earlier that this second bank has a whole lot to do with what are we going to power that pump motor up with, all right? What are we going to power it up with? Well, obviously we have a choice. If you look up there at that second bank, the very first position, you can either operate a pressure switch or you can operate a pressure transducer, all right? So that's what the first bank's going to, or that first position in that second bank's going to tell us. I'm going to move ahead one slide. I think I've got a picture of these. There you go. All right, so On the left-hand side is a typical pressure transducer. All right, when this drive ships out, it's going to ship with a 100 pound pressure transducer. That's standard. If you look at the model numbers down below, it's going to indicate which one is going to ship with a transducer, which one is going to ship with a switch. All right, so there's 4 model numbers for the 2 drives. You got the Commander 2-T, that's a transducer. The Commander 2-S, that's a switch. That same nomenclature holds true for the 3-wire drive. But you do have a choice. You have a choice between that pressure transducer and that pressure switch, sensor switch that you see on that right-hand side. There's a terminal block. I'm going to point this out here. There's a terminal block right here, up here in this drive. Those 2 terminals on the far left-hand side, they're pre-wired. All they're doing is running down to that cooling fan that we had seen earlier. Those 2 wires run to the cooling fan. What we're going to do is wire in either one of those, the transducer or the switch. We're going to wire those in to these 2 terminals on the right-hand side. So, according to the instructions, if you're using a pressure transducer, it's going to tell you. It says you need to take that brown wire and connect it to the S1 terminal, and then take the blue wire and connect it to the S2. Again, that's I don't know how it could get any more clear than that. We're telling you what color to put where. If you're using that switch, you got a red and black wire, it doesn't matter. You can put them on the S1, S2, they're interchangeable, all right? So it doesn't matter which terminal you use if you're using that switch. For those of you that might be sitting here thinking, you know, what are the differences between these things? I know when we first introduced drives many years ago, we introduced it with just that switch you see on the right-hand side. Everybody loved our drive, but they wanted to use a transducer in lieu of a switch. And if you asked them, well, why is that? They said, well, it's easier to set the pressure. Because with that switch, if you're going to set a pressure for your drive, again, this is not a difficult thing, but you're going to need to remove that top rubber boot. That boot comes off of there, and then with like a hex-headed screwdriver, you're going to go down and crank a hex-headed nut, just like a conventional pressure switch. You're going to turn it clockwise to increase pressure, and I think for a single turn or quarter turn, you're going to get about a 3-pound increase, something like that.
Can you move this water bottle?
I will move the water bottle. So you're going to get about a 3-pound increase for every quarter turn on that pressure switch. So that's how you're going to have to set the pressure, all right? You're going to have to look at a pressure gauge, obviously, to know where you're setting that pressure at. And again, the reason that there was some appeal for the transducer is that you didn't have to do any of that, right? You can set the transducer pressure set point right there in the drive itself. But again, that terminal block is right there in the center, very easy to get to. One other thing that I want to point out, because I'm afraid I might forget it, but up here at the top of this is a USB port. And that USB port is there so that we can remotely update this drive, okay? It can be updated remotely. It doesn't have to come off the wall. It can be simply updated with a flash stick. You go buy a computer today, I don't care where you buy it, brand spanking new, I guarantee you before the week's out, it'll want to update twice, right? So that's just the nature of electronics. All right, let's move on to this next slide here. We're down to that, I want to go back to this second bank here. So basically you're setting the either for a pressure switch or a pressure transducer. Those positions 2, 3, and 4 have to do with response time. Now, oftentimes those never have to be messed with, all right? So there are the occasions, though, that if we want to increase the response time, we can do that. I've got an echo?
Yeah.
All right. Having a little issue with sound, but we'll get it all worked out. But those have to do with response time. The instruction manual really relates to when we would want to use those. The drawdown has to do with the percentage below whatever pressure set point we're going to have, all right? Pressure set point. And you've got a choice. The factory defaults at 5 psi or 5%, and but you can go up to 20% with that drawdown. Again, that's how much how many PSI do you want the pressure below the set point before this drive kicks on and runs everything back up to pressure again, right? How far do you want that to drop below set point? Okay, then that very last bank down there.
Picked up audio from two sources. I'm not sure.
Do I need to stop or am I going all right?
I'd pause for a second until we get this sorted out.
Wasn't hearing anything.
Okay, I guess we'll just pause for a technical break here. TV timeout.
Keep going. You might be right.
Yeah, I don't hear anything. I think you're good.
Okay. Again, folks, first bank tells you what kind of pump motor you're running. Second bank, what kind of a switcher you're going to use to operate it, transducer or a pressure sensor switch. That third bank, as I mentioned early on, is kind of a little bit of a catch-all down there. Let me see if I've got a bigger view, a better view of that bottom bank there. There we go. So when we look at the bottom bank, and again, when you look at the difference between the Commander 2 inlay versus the Commander 3, there are subtle differences, slight differences, but they're pretty important. But you can see those differences on the screen now. Number 2 down there is a broken pipe mode, right? It's a broken pipe mode. That can be enabled or disabled. Basically, a broken pipe mode, what that's going to do, if you have a pump that runs for a period of time, and that pump hasn't built up to pressure and shut off and cycled, it just runs continuously, the drive's going to kick out on a broken pipe mode, right? And I'm going to just real quick, a little story here on that broken pipe mode. We had a customer here not far from us that put a drive on their water system. They had a submersible pump that not only operated the home water system, but it was a geothermal pump. And there was a winter that came, and the temperature dropped. It was like 9 degrees below zero, and that daggone geothermal pump, that submersible, never shut off, never shut off. And what would happen is it'd kick out on broken pipe mode, which is exactly what it was supposed to do, because the drive said, hey, you've been sitting here running for that long, you haven't built pressure, you haven't shut off, there must be a leak somewhere. Well, in this case, because that pump was just running continuous, that was become a nuisance, and so we just went in and disabled that broken pipe mode, and that eliminated that problem. Recommended that maybe come spring you might want to turn that back on again. But at any rate, these, down on the Commander 3 and the Commander 2, the third one down, if they've got a conventional pressure tank, I mentioned one of the reasons that these drives are popular is because you can upgrade an existing system. You can go from a 20-pound differential swing to, a consistent pressure with a drive. And if they have if they've got a conventional pressure tank in there and there's nothing wrong with it, leave it. And there's no reason that it needs to come out. And there you can make that choice down there on the position 3 to either go with the large tank or small tank. A lot of these are installed with tanks about the size of a basketball. They work just fine that way. All right, where are we at? Let's see. Okay, we're over here to the pressure set point. All right, now this dial over here, this is going to be used only when a transducer is used. Again, when you're going to set the pressure with that switch, you're going to take that rubber boot off, and you're going to look at the pressure gauge, and you're going to set the pressure there. With the pressure set point on a transducer, the knob is going to be set at 50%, all right? So now, listen carefully here. The transducer range is adjustable from 10 to 90%, all right? That's the range that's adjustable. So basically, if we have a 100-pound transducer, we are basically saying that you can adjust that range from 10 to 90 PSI. That's what we're saying, 10 to 90%. That'll come in 5% or 5 PSI increments if, in fact, it's a 100 PSI transducer. But there are other transducers that can be used on these drives, and there's the occasion they will be. And those could be 150 or 200, sometimes 300 PSI. All right, this still applies. When we talk about 10 to 90% of a 150-pound transducer, that's no longer 10 to 90 PSI like it would be on a 100-pound, right? So you do the math. And, but that's what that transducer dial is going to do, is it's set for a percentage of the range of that that pressure set point will be set for a range of that transducer. The pressure set point must be adjusted when the drive is powered off, all right? So the drive needs to be off while we set that pressure set point. It says the new setting will not take effect until the drive power is cycled back up. And it says this knob is only compatible with a 4 to 20 milliamp pressure transducer. A pressure transducer must be installed in the system, and when it is, that dip switch number 2, bank number 2, position number 1, which is the transducer of the switch, must be in the right position, reading transducer, all right? But there's where you set your pressure. And again, when you set your pressure up there, it's going to be a percentage of that pressure range for that transducer. But this is in the minds of a lot of contractors, this is a whole lot easier to set a pressure set point than it is with a pressure sensor switch. The top dial over there, this is your code word for the day, folks, underload. All right, write that down somewhere. Jot that on a piece of paper and collect that with 2 other code words and get them emailed in here to F&W. But up there is, at the top right, that's where you're going to set your underload, or that's where the underload sensitivity can be set. Now, this, I think, is coming down to one of the last slides. And I don't know if, I should just simply read these out. They're on your screen right now. But when we look at those occasions where we need to make tweaks to that underload, these are some of those occasions that may occur, all right? And again, everything that we're seeing here is in the instruction manual. But if you look down at that bottom right, it says shallow set if the pump is installed in an extremely shallow or an artesian well, all right, where you got water coming right up over the top. The controller trips on an underload fault. The underload potentiometer will need to be turned counterclockwise to drop that sensitivity setting back in the operation. And we'll just repeat it as necessary to get rid of that nuisance trip. So same with the deep set pumps in areas where we're going to have deep sets. But when we look at this drive, and again today the whole goal was to just kind of give you an introduction. We're very excited about it. Again, these things are got some legs underneath them. They're affordable, they're simple, and they can be used virtually on any motor that's out there. The last thing I would say when it comes to these is that we have these publications that are available. Get a hold of your sales guy. Make sure he gets you a handful of these things. These are great. Contractors love them. They're pocket-type guides. They can go in a glove box. They're much, much handier to have on a job. But there's one for the drive. There's one for the motor. And again, these are little portable pocket guides for each of these products. So undoubtedly, there'll be further sessions on variable frequency drives. Because again, we'll probably have a session that will help you when we talk about troubleshooting. And I'm going to tell you something. 90% of the drives that are out there need to stay on the wall and not come back to the factory, because that troubleshooting can be done standing right in front of it with a few tweaks of those buttons or dials. We can get those drives up and running. So anyway, hope you picked some things up today. I don't know how long we ran.
About 38 minutes.
There we go. If I left anything out, anything you can think of? Are there any questions that came in?
So what is the best use case for a VFD? Is it someone that has like a smaller tank at home, or would you say that it's just for really anybody that needs constant pressure?
The opening question was, what is the best use?
Yeah, so if someone, how do you know that your possible customer may benefit from a VFD like this?
All right, so the question basically is, either what is the best use for a VFD, or how does a customer benefit for a VFD? Let me say this much. Don't just stop on the notion that you can provide constant pressure. There are other things out there that can do that that don't have anywhere near the features of a drive. When you talk about a constant pressure, or when you talk about a variable frequency drive, here's why a customer would want one. One, they can have consistent pressure irrespective of the amount of water they're using. It's kind of like cruise control in a car. And the second reason why a customer would want to have a drive is because of the onboard protection. This drive is going to keep that pump from self-destructing if it gets into a situation like a deadhead or a dry run or anything else that may destroy that pump. With a variable frequency drive, you do have that onboard protection. And then you've got the diagnostics part of it. You remember those blinks? All right, well, those blinks mean something. And so when you go out there, you don't have to figure out why that drive went into a fault. You just look at those blinks, and if it's blinking 3 times or 4 times, whatever that is, again, inside this cover will be that label. Boom, right there is your cause of a trip. So I think there are a lot of reasons beyond constant pressure. Protection, diagnostics, energy savings, in addition to constant pressure.
So would you say diagnostics is, with the VFD, is way better than just a simple control box, right? Because, I mean, that could just not, you could blow, you wouldn't know the reason why.
Yeah, right.
VFD, could determine where it's the issue.
No, right. A control box has no diagnostics. It's it's going to have a start capacitor and relay in it, and when it goes, you replace it.
I got a question here for you.
Okay, another question.
What if I'm on a 3 horsepower motor and the transducer fails, but I only have a pressure switch on the truck? Can it operate like a control box can until I get a replacement transducer?
All right, so the question was, if I've got a 3 horsepower submersible motor, it's operating on a transducer, and the transducer, for whatever reason, failed. The contractor only has a pressure switch on his truck and wants to know if he can swap that transducer out for a pressure switch just to get the customer back in water until such time he can replace that transducer, if I understood that question correctly, and I probably stated it much longer than it should have been. The answer is yes. Yes, you can do that.
So we're swappable, the
Yes.
transducer and the pressure switch.
Yes, you can.
All right. Let's see if we get any more questions in here. Do you have any questions for him, Ben?
Nope, I think you got it covered there.
We'll give this drive a look because, again, a lot of people are very pleased with the simplicity and the affordability, right? So there you go. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll hope to see you soon and talk to you once again. Thanks.